Howdy. I wanted to stop today and make a little video of something going on here, a brief project. To make a long story short, we had set up for a gig. My friend was setting up our PA system and something sounded wrong. He has this JBL Eon One, two big woofers and two tweeter towers that go up from there. And somebody said, sounds like distortion. I said, I think this sounds like a blown speaker. And no way, couldn't possibly. It has these big tweeter towers that sit on there. He swapped sides, level up, level down and all, and it was definitely one of these towers had something wrong with the speaker. I thought it was blown. Luckily we salvaged the gig, had a great afternoon, and little outdoor performance, nice time. But I just grabbed this from his place last night and I said, I'd like to have a look at that and see what we might do. Luckily there was a backup PA system, and I guess we have another one available now. But I wanted to get this thing. The JBL Eon One is a really nice PA system, and I was hoping this would be salvageable. So this is what I found. We didn't know which one it was because everything got packed up after the gig. So I brought stuff back to my house. All it takes is a medium-sized Phillips head screwdriver. I only had the little shorty guy. But a medium head Phillips size screwdriver. I took basically all the screws out from all 8 from the back, a couple from the top, and a couple from the bottom. And you just take off the 2 sideways screws here also so that the back can come apart. And I took the first one apart and looked at it. It's got 6 tweeters. They all looked fine, and then I pushed on them gently, because sometimes you'll see if a speaker has a rip, it might look okay when it's resting, but you put a little pressure and you see that rip open up. So I just moved them all a couple millimeters and they all looked good. But then I thought, I wonder if it's damaged internally, and I'm not going to see that it's blown, but it has a bad coil inside or something else happened, You can never tell sometimes with these delicate things. So I put that one aside, I opened up the second one, and I did the same thing. I looked fine, looked perfect. And that's when I thought, this is going to be tough. I'm not going to be able to find out what's wrong. But I started pushing on all these, and I pushed a little bit, and it moved. And I got to this one, that's not there, and I pushed on it, and the speaker cone felt rock solid, like it would not move. And I was like, ooh, that's definitely different from all the others. Everything else is flexing a little bit. And I flipped it over, and well, the back side's closed back off, but I flipped it over and I looked inside, and what I found was one of the tweeters, it was not blown, but one of the tweeters, this magnet on the back, had come off, but it was still magnetized to the back of the frame here. So what I think happened was the voice coil was still in a magnetic field and trying to move, but because the voice coil wasn't lined up where it can go in and out, it was just vibrating against the magnet. And I think that was causing all the distortion. It was not able to go through its normal travel back and forth. It could probably travel forward a fraction and then go back and hit the magnet again. So this thing had come off, but it was magnetized. And it took me a minute to figure out what I was looking at, because I never saw a speaker with the magnet off in real life. I've seen diagrams or whatever. But looking at what we have here, I think the voice coil might be undamaged. I think the cone is undamaged. Everything else, I think, is fine. The spider inside, support, I think is all fine. So basically it was off like this. Just like that. It was stuck and magnetized to the edge, and it was just hanging there in that position. So I figured out, as I was kind of messing with it, there's one place where the epoxy is still around the back of the frame. There's one place this thing really wants to seat in just perfectly, like a key going into a lock. It just goes in and it just fits right there. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to put a couple of drops of super glue. Well, first, I'm going to take a cotton swab with isopropyl alcohol, and then a cotton swab with some acetone, clean things up nicely. And then I'm going to see about getting this seated. I don't know, will acetone take away the epoxy? I want the old adhesive on there because that's what's going to make this line up so that I know it should be lined up with the voice coil. Because as long as that's back in position, these things worked perfectly. They sounded great. So I want this centered perfectly so everything works. And then my plan is clean it, degrease, make sure it's all clean. Probably 4 drops super glue to get it bound in and held there. And I'll let it go, I don't know, 30 minutes while the super glue cures all the way. And then I'm gonna mix up some JB Weld, a 2-part epoxy. And I'm gonna work that around the outside edge. I don't want to put JB Weld inside because this is such a small space I'm working in. If it squeezes out and goes in, it's gonna foul things up. So I just want tiny little drops of super glue in here. Reseat this. After the super glue is cured, mix up the epoxy, smear that around the edges a little bit, and I think as long as the voice coil is not damaged, that is right back where it's supposed to be. Right there. As long as the voice coil is not damaged, you know, put it back in, hook it up, take it back and test it, see if it works or not. I just saw on eBay one of these was up for sale, I believe, for like over $50. That's an awful lot for a 2-inch tweeter, I think. Does not say the impedance on, although I could measure the impedance and try to figure what it is exactly. But doesn't have the rating, the impedance, anything about it, so I'm not sure if I was to try to replace it with something else, would it be a proper match? Although I could delve in a little deeper and find that. But anyway, that's my plan. If you ever want to know what was inside a JBL Eon One tweeter, it's this array. I'm pretty sure this is the original generation. There's a Mark II or a second generation also that I think I read has 8. Like I think it goes all the way from one end to the other instead of stopping like 2/3, 3/4, whatever. But anyway, that's the project today. I'm not going to film me putting glue on here, but I wanted to mention that. And then I'll get back on and maybe follow up the end of this video with the results and how it all looks and everything. That's it. Alright, so this is probably about an hour after the first part of the video. I set the magnet in where it belongs. I put probably about 8 drops of super glue right on the magnet. I set it in. I turned it just a little bit back and forth, and in 3 seconds it was bound. I mean, it was bound so hard I could not move it anymore, but I let it sit. I put a light weight on top of it just to keep it all together and left it sit for about 15-20 minutes. The directions said 10. Then I mixed up the JB Weld, just a little tiny bit of it. And what I realized was the frame of this little speaker has air holes, probably for cooling, because the tweeters will generate some heat. So I wanted to make sure I put the epoxy on, not interfering with the air holes. So I kind of painted it in with a toothbrush. And I got a nice bead all the way around. I laid it in a little thicker between the air cooling holes. And then I laid it right up on the magnet itself. I'll bring it up close. I'm not sure if it really comes out or not. You can see the holes probably on there, and you can see where the epoxy, I'm not sure if it's focusing too well. And the epoxy is just runny enough. I want to let it cure a while in this position so that it won't run back up the holes. If it does run over the back of the magnet, no foul there. It does say let that go at least 4 to 6 hours, preferably overnight. So I think what I'm going to do is later this evening, I'll just pop this back into the rest of the array frame where it goes. I'll double check, get the plug on. And by tonight, this whole thing should be back together. Should be ready for testing tomorrow if I can get it back to Kevin and have have him hook it up to the amp and everything. The rest of the JBL. So I'm going to go ahead and publish this video just because I wanted to let Kevin see what things looked like in there and what had happened. I'm going to post the video up, and I figured what I would do is there won't be any of the progress beyond here, except maybe I'll put a comment underneath how this repair worked and is it holding up and giving us any trouble. Although the one funny thing I really thought, though, and it makes me wonder about stuff like this, is if that magnet would have fallen off completely and just been laying inside somewhere, we may have never known that one tweeter out of 6 had failed on us. The other 5 might have been fine, and as long as there were no short circuits or open wires, I think the other 5 would have kept on working just fine, and we might not even know there's a problem, which is kind of funny. But because the magnet came off, stayed near the voice coil, but was blocking the voice coil, that's what was causing, and again, I thought it was a blown speaker. I think we all thought it was a blown speaker once we swapped the towers, we tried, different levels, higher, lower, and stuff into it, and, but the cones are in great shape. It's just that magnet was not glued on firmly. So hopefully this is going to take care of everything. I, by the way, did not clean it with any chemicals, because I was worried if I got acetone down, if I would have dripped any acetone, could it have ruined the suspension or could it ruin something else? So I did not clean this, but JB, well, that bonds like anything, I think. And we're not talking about, I don't know. I think it's going to be fine. I believe it's going to be fine. So anyway, I'll put it back together. Post this video up because, again, I want to share it back to Kevin, let him know what the deal is with all that, and then hopefully maybe some evening this week I take it back to his house and we crank it up to like 120 decibels and see if it holds up. See if it holds up. Anyway, that's it. Stay well. If you have any other comments about what I'm doing or questions about any of this kind of stuff, let me know. Like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Whatever floats your boat. Have a great day. See you later.